We begin with the Fox News alert as we enter the third week in the war in Israel.
The Israeli military bombarding Gaza with more strikes this morning and mounting limited ground raids into the Gaza Strip overnight.
Meanwhile, our U.S. State Department now telling all Americans to get out of Lebanon right now as Israel targets Hezbollah cells in that country.
Our own Trey Yingst is live on the ground in southern Israel with the latest. Trey, what's the latest on the ground?
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. We understand from the Israeli military that 320 different targets were hit inside Gaza overnight. They've also been launching a number of incursions into Gazan territory in an effort to try and destroy any of the Hamas or Islamic Jihad positions that are along the border. Just yesterday, near the town of Kisufim, an Israeli soldier was killed. We were reporting in that area the day before, and you could see into Gaza, the Israelis looking to gather as much information as they can ahead of that expected ground operation. You can hear the blasts of artillery headed into Gaza in the distance. It gives you a sense of the border here and how a lot of that fire continues on the ground. I do want to show you some images from inside Gaza, the city of Khan Yunis, that has many people that are sheltering after those evacuation orders to head south. We're getting new images from inside Gaza as the Palestinian Health Ministry says more than 4,700 people have been killed since the October 7th massacre and the Israeli response. Take a listen to this man who describes the situation inside Gaza.
We were expelled from Gaza City. They said Khan Yunis is a safe area. Now there is no safe space in all Gaza. The strikes yesterday in Khan Yunis were different than any other night. And thank God we are still here.
As we speak, there are sirens sounding in the southern city of Beersheba. It's one of the largest population centers here in the south. Still 17 days into this conflict, factions inside Gaza have the ability to fire rockets toward these cities, not just in the south, but also in central Israel. I do want you to listen to U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who discussed the type of threat the Israelis are going to face when they do ultimately launch that ground operation into Gaza. Take a listen.
This may be a bit more difficult because of the underground network of tunnels that that Hamas has constructed over time, and the fact that they've had a long time to prepare for a fight. So I think you'll see a fight that's characterized by a lot of IEDs, a lot of booby traps.
This is part of what the Israelis are doing with these cross-border raids, trying to destroy any of the cells that are along the border that would immediately ambush forces when they enter. I do want to draw our attention to the northern border, where over the weekend, more than a dozen communities were evacuated from the border with Lebanon. We do know Hezbollah, the Lebanese militant group, continues anti-tank guided missile attacks into northern Israel and also rocket fire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was in the north yesterday meeting with soldiers, telling Hezbollah that if they get directly involved in this war, they will be completely demolished. The Israelis have continued airstrikes against different Hezbollah positions there in southern Lebanon. Guys, back to you.
Hey, Trey, I've got a question for you, and that is, we know that internationally there are a number of deniers. They say, yeah, that stuff never happened. Today, it sounds like the Israeli forces are taking the unprecedented step of showing journalists there in Israel unedited video from the body cams of these essentially suicide bombers as they went into all these places and chopped people to smithereens. Is that to try to shut people up and prove that it did happen?
It's astounding and quite sad that there are so many people trying to deny that this massacre took place. So the Israelis continue to release evidence. Our cameras continue to capture evidence of what took place in southern Israel. Israeli officials trying to show journalists from around the world that are here uncensored video that we can't show you on TV. Some of it we can't even describe to you on TV because it is so graphic. But to give you a sense just of our reporting and where we are headed right now, we pulled over on the side of the road to bring you the reporting that we have. We are headed right now with a group of Israeli military officials, and they are currently cleaning out a bomb shelter where the Hamas militants threw in a grenade to kill civilians that were hiding when they entered on October 7th and conducted that massacre. That's where we're going now to interview these military officials that are trying to clean up the scene. It is truly hell on earth for the Israeli people, And the fact that people are denying this took place it just gives you the mindset of what Israel is up against, not just on the ground with the military operations and the war that is unfolding for the last 17 days, but also the parallel information war.
Trey, the amazing thing is Hamas doesn't want it to keep it a secret. They're bragging about it. They put a lot of the video up on their own sites. They've sent messages to people's Facebook addresses. So this is not something they wanted to hide. My question to you is this. Did they detain any of the terrorists from the October 7th raid? And are they talking?
It's a great question. Over the weekend, Fox News exclusively obtained a video of an Israeli interrogation of one of these militants that entered. And in the video, he admits to these war crimes against the Israeli people. He talks about the coordination that went into this massacre, how Hamas used Telegram to send updated videos in real time to show other militants and their commanders what was happening. He also talked about how commanders told them to behead Israelis. And then he goes into more detail after saying that they were acting like animals. The interrogator asks him what they did. And again, I can't tell you what we heard from this militant from his own mouth, because the details are too graphic to describe on TV about what these men did to the bodies of Israelis after they slaughtered them. And it is again remarkable that people are trying to deny this is taking place. And it's part of the reason that as we bring you live coverage from the border here under rocket and mortar fire, I am insisting that we get into these communities. We are pushing the Israeli military to take us with them, to see the aftermath of these brutal massacres so that we can write the first draft of history, a truthful and accurate draft about what took place here on October 7th.
Trey, any word on more hostage releases? Because it's being reported that Joe Biden, when he spoke to Netanyahu, he was advising Israel to delay the ground invasion in Gaza, hoping to buy more time for the hostage negotiations. Where are we on that? Because I know there are 10 Americans that are still missing.
We've been talking with both American and Israeli intelligence sources to get a better understanding about where these negotiations take place. We've also been talking with other officials we can't even attribute to because of how sensitive these conversations are. But the Israelis say today the number of hostages being held inside Gaza has risen to 222 people. Now, there was this glimmer of hope last week when 2 American citizens were released as part of a deal that was negotiated by the Qataris. And our sources tell us there are very high-level conversations taking place behind the scenes to possibly get dozens of more hostages out ahead of this looming ground offensive. But it's incredibly delicate what's taking place. The Americans are urging the Israelis to be cautious about their ground operation if any more hostages can get released before that operation takes place. But the clock is ticking, and the attacks from inside Gaza continue, not just on the ground, but also from the air. And so it's putting the Israelis in a difficult situation about when to respond, but also how they can get as many innocent civilians out as possible.
Yeah. Trey, we're looking at this live footage of Gaza City as some of the strikes are happening. I was talking with some friends that are in the IDF, and they were describing to me some of these booklets that some of the Hamas terrorists had on them. Can you go into a little bit of detail? I don't know if you've seen some of those booklets that they were carrying with them with the translation into Hebrew. What were these terrorists saying?
Yeah, we were in southern Israel reporting from many different areas in the early days of this war. And as we were driving toward the positions we went to report from, you could see the bodies of dead militants on the sides of the road. And with them, they had instructions on what to do and how to kill Israelis. They were given phrases in Hebrew that were transliterated from Arabic so they could say them, telling people to go door to door and tell their neighbors, it's okay, come out, we're with you. This is the military. They wanted to lie to these people and trick them into coming out of their homes so they could execute them. This is how calculated the terror was. And it is why this entire population is in a state of shock. And I want to share with you an interview that we're going to bring you later on Fox and Friends, actually next hour. You remember the live images we brought you from the kibbutz, the small community of Nir Oz. Yeah. and the blood-stained floors and this community that was slaughtered by these militants, we went and tracked down a family member of someone whose father is currently being held by Hamas inside Gaza. And we're going to bring you this interview next hour. But just to give you a preview of what this man says, we went to his home and we spoke with him. His brother was slaughtered by these militants and his father was taken hostage. And I told him, can you just describe your father to me? Who was this man? Who is this man? And he said, my father is a peace activist. He spent his free time driving Gazan children to Israeli hospitals to get medical treatment. He loved the Palestinian people. He wanted to help them as much as possible. He did art to protest violence against Palestinians, and still, they kidnapped him and they're holding him hostage inside Gaza. And it gives you a sense of just how indiscriminate these militants were when they entered on October 7th.
It's just awful.
That is, and they killed his son. All right, well, we look forward to seeing that interview next hour. Thank you so much, Trey.
Thanks, Trey.